All right, so we're going to talk a little bit today about continuity of operations plans and what to do. So what do you do? These are a couple different scenarios for you guys to think about. So there's a gas leak at your place of business and you need to evacuate immediately and won't be able to return to work for a week. Or over the weekend, something's happened near your place of business. Take your pick: flooding, sinkhole, explosion, riots, and your employees don't know if your place of business was affected and all phone systems are down. Or there's a valley-wide disaster that's going to take months or maybe years to recover from. Think about like an earthquake type level event. So how do you continue to operate? That's the question, right? So what is a COOP and when is it used? So a COOP stands for Continuity of Operations Plan, and it may also be referred to as a Business Continuity Plan. It allows businesses to continue to operate if one or more facilities become unavailable. It's specific to your business, your department, your division, and your individual work unit, not the actual incident. So you don't want to write plans for every single incident, right? So your continuity plan covers all incidents. And then it's any occurrence preventing your day-to-day operations from happening. So think again, examples of localized flooding, power outages, earthquake. So I'm going to go back to the specific to your business and your department. So for an example, the City of Las Vegas has 21 different departments, and each department has their own continuity plan, and it's specific to their department, and it includes their divisions and their work units. And the reason for that is because not all incidents affect your entire business, right? You could have a broken pipe in one department and it's not going to affect the entire business. So that's why it's specific to that department and their divisions that fall underneath them. So that's something for you guys to think about. Your COOP explains places to go when you're unable to report to your work location, and then what work will be performed and the people that are going to perform that work. And we'll get into that a little bit more as I talk. Before an emergency, you want to consider both short-term and long-term disruptions, and what is your mission essential functions, right? So we all have normal activities that we do every day, but when you're in an event, you're going to be performing your essential functions. Things that might be required by law, like the City of Las Vegas, we have things that that are required of us by law. You guys might have things that are required by policy, but those are things that you're going to want to think about. And then what is needed in order to perform those functions, right? And then where else would you set up your operations? How would you communicate with each other? And then once you establish those things, you're going to want to test those plans. So it's important that you test them. So one of the things a couple of the things that I've put down here is you want to do a notification exercise where you set up, you have an incident and how you would communicate to your employees, a notification of letting them know, like, hey, this is a test, so we're testing our notification system. If this were a true continuity of operations incident, this is how you would be communicated with, and we would tell you to go to XYZ. Or you may have your employees working from home and you want to do a telework exercise, right? Have everybody log in from home, make sure that they're able to connect, make sure that their phone systems work, that you guys are all able to communicate. After an emergency, you guys want to assess the damage and decide if your COOP should be activated, right? Because not every incident requires a COOP. Like, let's say the power went out today, but you talked to Nevada Energy and the power is going to be back on in 2 hours. You don't need to activate your COOP for something like that. But if you get a hold of Nevada Energy and they tell you, hey, we hit a major power line, your business is going to be without power for a week, then yes, you're probably going to want to activate your COOP. So if you decide that you're going to activate your COOP, you're going to want to start with your communication plan. How are you notifying your employees that a coup's been activated? I always suggest that you have a phone tree, and because obviously, like, let's just say the director is going to get a call like, hey, this incident's happened, and they've now activated the coup. That director is going to then talk to their managers and their lines of business. Their lines of business then are going to communicate to their managers, and then their managers are going to go down the phone tree and start calling employees. It's a cascading notification. You would then want to get in touch with your relocation team and have them establish your mission-critical functionalities at your alternate location. And we'll talk about your relocation teams a little bit later. And then everyone else is considered your support team and is activated as needed until recovery is complete. So again, you want to identify your essential functions, your critical activities, your essential functions, not like your normal everyday stuff, the things that you're required to do to continue to operate. And then you want to identify your continuity facilities, locations where you can carry out work temporarily if you're displaced. So again, do you have multiple business locations? If so, you may want to look at setting up a relocation site there. Or you might have businesses that you partner with, that you work with on a regular basis, that might have a conference room or space available for you. So you're going to want to reach out to those other businesses and see if that's a possibility. A lot of us have been teleworking from home, right, with the COVID going on, and so maybe you've decided that your employees should be working from home. Or maybe you have a mobile office. I can tell you that one of our departments actually has a mobile office on wheels that they can take anywhere and continue to operate. Next, you want to look at communications. You want to inventory your equipment and required resources utilized for communications. So you want to look at your computers or laptops and software and take an inventory of that. And if you are used to using computers, you may want to think about looking at laptops, right? Things that people can take home on an everyday basis. That way, if something were to happen to your business, they have their laptops at home and are able to continue to operate wherever you determine your alternate location is. You want to look at dedicated phone lines and phone numbers, and then again, those phone trees that I talked to you guys about just a little bit ago. And then you want to look at staffing, right? Orders of succession. So you all have leadership within your organizations, your policy makers or your directors, things like that. If that person isn't available, let's say that when this incident happens, let's say they're on vacation, who is the next successor, right, that's going to be able to fill that role? And I always say that you need to have at least 2 deep on that. So you have your leadership, who falls right below that, and you want to have at least 2 or 3 deep for that. And then you have your delegation of authority. So again, you're going to want to have at least 2 to 3 deep on this, but who authorizes leave slips, who approves time cards, things like that. So when you're looking at delegation of authority, who normally does that job, or who would do this job in an emergency situation, and if for some reason they're not there, who can fill in for them? You also have your relocation team, and this is what I was talking to you guys about a little bit earlier, is that you want to have a team that's able to go to your alternate location and set up that site before the rest of your employees come. So you want to have your relocation team trained to respond when a coup is deployed. So your business has decided that we're activating our coup. Your relocation team is going to go to your alternate site, make sure that everything's in place before your other support team members show up. So the next is your support team. They might initially, if in an event, right, if let's just say phone lines are down and you've talked to your employees about alternate sites, your employees might just show up at your alternate site, but you really don't want them there until your relocation team has set up your facility, right? So they might initially show up and you might have to say to them, hey, we would like you to come back after the relocation team has set up. And we want you to come back maybe in 2 hours or 4 hours or 8 hours, whatever you guys have determined. But that's your support team. And then next you have your planning team. Your planning team updates and maintains your continuity plan. So remember, you write your continuity plan today, and a lot of people think, okay, it's done, right? We know what we're doing, we know where we're going, but your continuity plan is a living document that's constantly changing. You're always going to have new employees coming into your business, and then you're going to have employees that are leaving. You're going to have people that are going to get promoted, and you're going to have new software and new systems of doing things. And so that continuity plan needs to constantly be updated and also needs to be exercised. And that's what your planning team is for. Vital records resource management. You want to make sure that records, documents, and other information like software that will be needed to continue operations. So you want to make sure that you have that in your plan. And you want to have an inventory and make copies of external drives and storages off-site. So things to think about that you want to have is your emergency plans and directives, staff rosters and staffing assignments, and then develop a drive-away kit designed to assist in mobilizing in the implementation of your plan. So something to think about if you're going to an alternate site, things that we don't think about, right? You want to make sure that in your drive-away kit you have paper and pens and staplers and staples and things that you use on an everyday basis that you take for granted, that when you show up to your alternate site and they're not there, you're like, oh man, I wish I had that. So you want to make sure that those things are in your drive-away kit. Also, we all have become dependent on computers, but if for some reason the internet is down, how are you going to continue to function without the internet and your computers? So things you guys might want to think about is hard paper copies of whatever it is that you might need, whether that's contracts or contact information or ways that you do business. You may want to think about hard copies because it could happen, right? If we had a major earthquake and phone lines and computer systems are down, how are you going to continue to function? So I would think about some sort of hard copy on how you would do that. And then alert notification procedures. An announcement of COOP activation that directs the COOP team members to report immediately to an assembly site or designated alternate facility and provides instructions regarding movement, reporting, and transportation details. So remember, you've activated your COOP, you've started your phone tree. You want to make sure that when you're calling your employees that you're giving them specific instructions. You're telling them, hey, the relocation team is setting up our alternate site. We don't want you to report yet. We want you to report in 2 hours or 4 hours. And this is where you're going to go. And this is how you're going to get in. And this is where you're going to park. And things like that. So it's out of their norm. So you want to make sure that you're providing your employees with as much information as possible. And then during an emergency, lastly, is lives matter most and property can be replaced. So remember that. And also, families comes first. So does your family have a plan? And we're going to talk about that a little bit. And your primary goal is survival, weathering the storm. Once the dust settles and you've had time to assess things, then that's when you're going to focus on restoring your operations. And that's the end.
Well, thank you. So we wanted to do a poll too to see if any of you have a personal emergency, family emergency plan. You know, we asked at the beginning if you had one for your business, but it's also important that, you know, as Michelle mentioned, that you have a plan for your family. So thanks for that, Michelle. We do have a question here. First one that came up is, how frequently do you recommend that we test our coop?
So I would say at least once a year. I would prefer every 6 months, but I would definitely say at least once a year. Because again, you're going to have new employees that are coming in that don't know anything about the plan for your organization. So you just want to make sure that everybody fully understands what their roles and responsibilities are, and that your new employees have been trained on it as well.
Yeah, when you were talking about the announcements of, the coop being activated, I thought, wow, how strange or how difficult would that be if you were a new employee and you receive this notice that the coop's been activated and you don't even know what it is, right?
Yeah, and another thing, talking about testing or exercising your plan, do make sure that when you are testing your plan that you say this is an exercise, and that you say that at the beginning and at the end of that phone call. Because I can tell you that even though you're telling them that, your employees might not be hearing that and might think that they are supposed to be reporting somewhere. So do make sure that you're telling people this is an exercise, and then give them the instruction, then follow up again. This is just an exercise.
I like that. I like that suggestion. So here's another question. What should my business do if I'm out of the country when an emergency happens?
Well, that's where your delegation of authority comes in, and that's the reason for your delegation of authority. So if someone is out of the country, whoever's next in line will be making those decisions. And of course, we're going to want to make sure that they understand the plan as well and are able to make those decisions.
Sounds good. Well, I don't think we have any other questions that have been posted on here. We do want to thank you for your time. We do have a winner that's been selected randomly for the $50 Amazon gift card. So Victor Grotto is the randomly selected winner. Victor will contact you at the close of the webinar to discuss getting that gift card over to you. We also want to let you know we do have a white paper that we put together that contains the content of the slides and the steps on how you can either implement or improve your coop for your business. So we'll be sending that out to everybody as long after this closes, as well as a link to watch the video if you guys wanted to go back and review it. So Michelle, thank you so much for your time. We wish you the best, and hopefully we can talk with you more later.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks everyone.